All right, all right. Peace and power to the true and living. What's good, family? Thank y'all so much for being here with us again. We are excited to be back with y'all for the second part of our interview. So before we even get any further into this, if you're new to this, if you have not seen the first interview, I strongly recommend that you go back and watch the first interview before you watch this one, because this one is a continuation of the first one that we did. So I am here once again, joined by my good friend, Mr. Ikome Monono. So if you saw the first interview, you already know what this is gonna be. So Ikome, thank you for being back, man. I look forward to the interview. Really enjoyed the first one. So without too much, man, let's just go and get straight off into it. So in our last video, we left off where you were explaining about pretty much everything wrong in our world today, all the pain and suffering and misfortune and all that. All these things are a result of, our violation of God's law, whether you're looking at it on a global scale or whether you're looking at it on our personal lives and the things that we deal with, on a personal level. All those pains and misfortunes are a result of our violation and misunderstanding of God's laws. And I think you were doing a very good job in breaking that down. So I want you to continue from that, and then we're going to build upon as we touch upon other things.
Yes, once again, thank you for, another opportunity as we continue our interview. It was just unfortunate that we were not able to complete our interview due to some technical difficulties. But we are going to do our very possible best and give you people and try to bring some more expansion of that conscious expansion and awareness of what we were talking previously. But as I would digress a little bit from the beginning of time, as the Lord created the worlds, the universe, created it, he instituted certain rules, regulations, laws to take care of what he has created. We can see even from a software program, computers. The person who designed the computers, they install a program in that computer that runs the software that runs the program.
Mm-hmm.
So the world was not just created by itself, as a lot of people think, or we're not just put here to do whatever we please and to do.
Absolutely.
There are certain laws that we're supposed to abide by in order for us to wander through this creation happily and joyfully. But it has come to a point where we have ignored all these laws and all these rules that were instituted by the Almighty. And those laws and rules are adamatime. They cannot be changed. They cannot, no matter what we do or what we try to do, they are irrevocable, unshakable, and they remain from eternity to eternity. That's the perfection of the Almighty. And one of these laws that has been greatly ignored by humanity and almost all of us is the law of reciprocal action, the law of cause and effect. Is the same law. What you sow, you shall reap. That law has been so disregarded by almost all of us, humanity. And through that disregard, it has plunged us to a lot of suffering. All the misery that we see today in our society is as a result of the disregard of that law, from sicknesses, diseases, plague, as we earlier said, from air pollution,
Absolutely,
from the wars, earthquakes, weather catastrophe. All those things are just to remind us that we violated the laws, those laws, mostly the law of reciprocal action. What a man sow, shall he reap. I will also go back what a man sows shall he reap. That law, we violated that law. And Jesus Christ also spoke of that law.
Yeah.
That what a man sows shall he reap.
Shall he reap.
And the things that we've done, now this thing at the turning point, these things are coming back to us.
Mm-hmm.
And the earth is also trying to renew, to heal itself.
Absolutely.
From all the catastrophe,
Mm-hmm.
all the things that are wrong that we've instituted.
Yeah, all the things that we've done. Yeah.
So that's one thing, the violation of this law of reciprocal action. And many people think that, hey, I can live on this earth
Mm-hmm.
and commit all kind of crimes and do whatever I want to do. And hey, if I die, it's over.
Yeah, like you're gonna get away with it. And you know, brethren, before you move forward with that, I just want to go ahead and add this to there, because I think that's a perfect addition. You were saying just now, you're talking about the laws, right? How everything came into existence because of these laws. And he gave a perfect metaphor using the computer systems, right? And this is one thing I want y'all to consider. Where there are laws, there must be a lawgiver, right? Because laws don't just spin out of nothingness, right? The laws are something that comes from a conscious mind, right? So you can't have, and that's the crazy thing about the scientific field. They establish, not establish, they recognize the laws. They call them the laws of nature, whatever they call them. They recognize the laws, right? People like Isaac Newton have came along and have recognized the various laws. But then, to me, it's just crazy that they would make the argument that there is no lawgiver, that these laws just spun themselves into existence, which is just insane, right? So let's keep that in mind. Where there are laws, there must be lawgivers. There must be a lawgiver. And we know that science already acknowledges the presence, the existence of these laws, right? And then to go along with what you were saying, brethren, with the people who are thinking that they could just live their life any old way and do whatever they want, and in the end, you're going to be dead and nothing is going to come of it. Well, that's not true, right? Because you have laws. And if you violate those laws, right, there must be consequences with those laws. So this is a very important realization to make. And this is why things like atheism is so dangerous to people. Things like atheism and nihilism are so dangerous, and they destroy people, because you think that you don't have no one to answer to. You think that you can just violate the laws of creation, the laws of life. And if you don't get caught by any human law, you're okay. But it doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? But I just wanted to throw that in there, because that's what it was reminding me of when you think about science and all the narrative, these so-called smart guys with all the degrees, anyways, go ahead, brethren.
So, yeah, you're correct. And these laws have been disregarded and taken out from religious books. It's just fortunate that the books in the Orient, like the Buddhists, their text, these laws are taken into consideration, because this law also, when you look at reincarnation, I will also touch on that also. The reincarnation was well believed back in biblical times. But after the passing of Christ, what happened? The Council of Nicaea, they all came together, the priests, and decided to dissect and put things together based on their own human understanding.
Yeah.
And since the priests back then, they had a lot of influence, they decided to remove the reincarnation, which was widely believed back then. And it's even in the Bible, though they try to remove it and take it away from the Bible, but you still find remnants of it that they were unable to remove in the Bible. If you look at when I think that was John.
Jesus said,
John 9 or.
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can look that up. I remember that story when Jesus spoke about the blind man.
The blind man.
Yeah.
And the disciples asked him, Rabbi,
yeah,
is this man who have seen, or his parents, who have sinned. The man was born blind.
Yeah.
Just to ask that question clearly shows that those people believed
exactly
in reincarnation. But Jesus Christ responded to them that neither the man sinned nor his parents, but his blindness was to fulfill the word of the Almighty.
Yeah.
To fulfill the miracles of the healing that Christ performed on him. I think it was John 9.
I'm not even finding it here, but I don't even think I'm typing the right stuff.
John 9, 1-6.
Okay, John 9, 1-6.
1-6.
But also, brethren, with that, remember, Jesus also said that John the Baptist was once Elijah.
Yeah.
In the Bible, and that I've read that many times, and that's clear as day.
Yeah.
In
Matthew, I think that was Matthew 17, 10-13, when the disciples, I think they asked Christ if John the Baptist was Elijah, and Christ told them that Elijah has already come and as John the Baptist.
Yeah.
And they didn't recognize him, but they killed him.
Yeah.
So those are clearly points showing that reincarnation, and Jesus Christ himself knew of reincarnation, but his life was cut short. So many of the things that he was supposed to teach us, he was unable to tell us everything. So it clearly shows that, and these teachings were removed in the Bible.
They were.
And they've been taken away because back then the priests had so much authority.
Yeah.
So they decided to remove that so that the people will not believe that someday they will have to come back and atone for all the evil that they were perpetrating on the believers back then.
Yeah. And family, ask yourself this question: why would they take something like reincarnation out of the Bible, right? Think about everybody today who's a Christian, right? The Christian world. If they had this knowledge and belief of reincarnation, how different they would be, right? Because when you think about it, it's like disarming people. When you take that knowledge away from them, you disarm them. And then you open the door into many errors that can destroy people's souls. So that was not a little thing that they did there by getting rid of the knowledge of reincarnation. And when people have this knowledge, and I'm speaking to myself personally, right? When you truly learn, that when you have this knowledge of reincarnation, how it works and things like that, it really liberates the soul, because now you realize that, hey, all these things that's happening to me, you mean, number one, I'm the cause of these things. And number two, I have the power to liberate myself from these things, right? As opposed to thinking I'm some kind of a victim, right? Oh, why is this happening to me? God, please, thinking that you're some kind of a powerless victim. Things are just happening to you and you're just some kind of an innocent bystander, right? So it makes a huge difference, family, as far as the decisions people would make, how they would conduct their life, and even the state of their spiritual state of being. That's right. So the deception runs deep, family.
It runs deep. So that was taken away. And that's why humanity today, they live so recklessly, thinking that there will be no consequences, but failing to realize that, yes, all the evil, all the things that you've done, a day of recompense will come. A day will come where you have to pay and atone for those things.
Exactly.
Even if it's not here or there, that day will surely come. And most of the time, sometimes it comes here on earth, while majority of people have already forgotten what they did. But through this spiritual journey, when you awake and you start growing spiritually, now the laws of reciprocal action become more intensified. That's why you see a lot of people who start their spiritual journey. A lot of good people start experiencing a lot of difficulties and challenges. Yeah. Those things are just brought to them so that they can face them and overcome them quickly. Exactly. So that they can continue their journey upwards.
So you can spiritually free yourself.
Exactly. So those things will be put before you so that you can deal with them as quickly as possible. Exactly. So that you don't continue to linger and waste waste time. So, but for those that are spiritually that are still asleep, sometimes nothing happens to them, and people will be wondering, man, I see this guy committing all kind of evil, all kind of crime, and he get away with it. But that's the deception, because the longer it takes for the laws of reciprocal action to take effect, the intensity, it's like I spoke of the law of compound interest. The longer it takes, the more the forces accumulate themselves. Okay. The longer it takes to harvest that corn, more corn will continue to grow.
Exactly.
And then the harvest will be more.
Exactly.
So now,
perfect example, Bridget. I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry, but I want to say this real quick. When you think about, like you just said, compound interest, when you think about the interest that we have to pay on money, the longer you take to pay something off, the more you have to pay. The quicker you pay it off, the less you have to pay. That's the same thing that he's talking about here, family. So I want y'all to think about that.
So that's what happened. So that's why if you commit a crime or you do something wrong or you hurt your fellow human, it's very good to try to go and reconcile with that individual
right away.
See how you can fix that problem. If it's monetary, you don't just go and apologize. Oh, I'm sorry I did that. No, you have to. If you steal money, you have to pay that money.
Give it back. Yeah,
you have to give it back. So people think, oh, I can just come and ask for forgiveness.
Yeah,
and it's over. No, it don't work like that. You have to find some kind of way and pay for that.
Absolutely.
So, and then we look at the law of equilibrium, the law of balance.
Yeah.
All these laws, they all work with the law of reciprocal action, the law of cause and effect.
Yeah.
Everything that we do, we have to kind of find some kind of balance. You cannot overstretch yourself or overextend yourself.
Exactly.
Because when you do that, then you go out of balance. And when we go out of balance, that's what causes even pain.
Diseases.
It brings diseases and it creates unhappiness.
Yeah.
It's like food. When they put food on the table, you just take what you need and eat.
Yeah.
We know what has happened with majority of us today. You know, the overconsumption,
overindulgence,
and that has brought about all kind of sicknesses and diseases, even greed.
Yeah,
you know, you look at humanity today; they want to accumulate as
more than what you need,
more than what they need. There's nothing wrong, you know, with getting all these things. But remember, we are only transitioning.
Yes.
This is not even this is a temporary place for us.
Yeah.
So the intellect, the mind always feel as though since it faces immortality, so you always want to accumulate as much as possible.
Exactly.
And instead of taking just what you need. So that's another law that have been violated, the law of balance.
Exactly.
You know?
And you know that's a result of fear, that wanting to accumulate more than you need. That is a result of fear, because you fear that things are going to run out. There's not going to be enough for you and so forth. Yeah. But if you're balanced and grounded in the light, in the word of the Lord, you realize that there is abundance in the light, right? You don't run out of anything. There's abundance. God gives in abundance. Yeah. So when you understand that God gives in abundance, then what's the point of hoarding? Yeah. Right? Trying to take more than what you need and so forth. Because when you do that, then you leaving somebody else out, you know? So
when you continue to do that, there's a level of insecurity, because you always feel as if there's never enough.
Exactly.
And that came from the Tower of Babel, you know, where humanity, they would try to build this tower, you know, they say they wanted to reach heaven. But it's also just a parable, you know, something that synonymous. But it's the upbuilding of the mind, the intellect, continue to accumulate more and more in the mind.
Yeah.
It came to a point where everything collapsed. The tower fell and shattered. And guess what? After it collapsed, there was confusion, chaos. And now these human beings cannot understand each other.
Exactly.
But prior to that, they were able to speak one language.
Exactly.
And that language was the language of the spirit, the intuitive faculties.
Exactly.
Which was our former language, a language where anybody can understand.
Yes.
The people that are spiritual, you can put them anywhere together, they can understand
they can
each other.
Even if they don't speak the same language.
They don't speak the same language.
Yeah, same
because
thing
they can sense.
Yes.
They can feel each other.
Just like animals.
Yep.
Like dogs,
like
right?
Dogs. So now that's the reason why we rely so much on this intellect, on the mind, and there's complete confusion.
Yeah.
We don't understand our fellow human being. Now we have to use this earth language that is of such a low order, the language that we speak.
Yeah.
And today to communicate with one another, and still we don't understand each other.
We still don't understand. You know. Yes. And brethren, I'm glad you dropped that, because that's another deep knowledge concerning the Tower of Babel. You know, a lot of people don't understand that's what the Bible is trying to tell us, that, you know, when we were once pure and when we were connected with God, we were all connected. Like we understood each other. But when it all fell apart, when we accepted the laws of Lucifer, that's when the intellect kicked in, and the intellect brought in nothing but confusion. So it's as if we were all speaking different languages and didn't understand each other because of that intellectual confusion. Whereas before, spiritually, we were connected. We understood each other. Just like I said earlier, a dog from America and a dog from China, they come across each other. These two dogs know exactly what's going on with the other dog.
That's right.
Right? And that's how it should be with human beings. But because we fell off, we're only depending on the intellect. The intellect by its nature is going to do none but create confusion.
That's right.
You know, so
and that's what has caused so much evil, because we human beings think that, oh, nothing will happen to me. You know, we see innocent people. Sometimes you see somebody getting locked up for a crime they didn't commit, and people will be wondering, oh, he didn't do anything.
Exactly.
It might have been in a previous life he committed a crime and got away with it.
Exactly.
And now in this present life he's facing those laws of repercussion.
Exactly.
And there are so many examples from somebody smoking cigarettes all their life, and nothing happens to them.
Nothing happens to them.
And then in their next life, this child is born, and all of a sudden they have this disease that is troubling them. Where did this child got this cancer from? Where did this child got this sickness, liver issues, and so on?
Exactly. And because you don't understand, then you blame God.
You know, blame God. And so those are those laws that we've violated. And I believe if majority of human beings are aware of just this one law, the law of reciprocal action, there will be a lot of evil. There will be less evil in the world today, because just being conscious that someday I will have to atone for it. You can pray all you want.
Yeah.
You can cry and scream.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to change the fact.
You have to understand that law. Yeah. And for me personally, brethren, that was a lifesaver in understanding that. When you just shared what you said about reincarnation, like, you know, you see an innocent man go to jail. He never did nothing in this life, but you don't know what that man did in the past life. Right? You don't know who he murdered, whatever the case, what crime he committed in his past life. Now he's paying for it in this life. So when I learned that, brethren, that was a real lifesaver for me, because at the point that the message came in my life, I was a radical. You know, I identified myself as a Black revolutionary freedom fighter, you know, to liberate Black people and to liberate Africa from the evil grips of the white man. Right? That's a path I was on, and I was on that path hardcore. And I put all my energy into that.
Remember, you know, I was too.
Yeah, and you were too. And that's an interesting thing, because you met me when I was on that path, and you recognized it, and you gave me the message, and that really saved my life, brethren. Because if I never was to get the message and come to these understandings, I would still be in that victim mentality, because that's why I was doing it, because I felt like Black people were a victim, you know, in this world. Because I didn't understand the spiritual laws and what's that life is more spiritual than it is physical.
That's right.
You know, and like I said, family, that was a real lifesaver for me to come across that knowledge, because now I feel like I'm a much more spiritually mature and well-rounded individual, as opposed to being who I used to be, this radical freedom fight. Everything is all about race, all about the black man. We must fight, you know, all that nonsense. It's a waste of energy, you know, because while I was doing all of that, family, I had zero thoughts of my own spiritual growth and development and how I must appear in the eyes of God. Actually, I felt like that right there was my spiritual growth and development. You know, on that Black revolutionary path, I felt like that was my spiritual, you know, path I was supposed to be walking, which is completely nonsense. You know, so family, this knowledge is life-saving knowledge. You know what Brother Ikome is breaking down here for y'all. These are things that people around the world today still struggle with, right? This is life-saving knowledge. So this is why we encourage you guys to get into this Grail message. Really take your time, isolate yourself, absorb these words, and try to understand it, because it will save your life. You know what I mean?
So that's why you see there's so much evil going on, because people are unaware of these laws, and they violate the laws, and they think that, oh, I will go to church and pray the hell out of my pray fast and all that. Yes, we can lessen the effect of the reciprocal action. You know that we can do that.
Yeah.
When you start becoming an ennobled human being, try to do the right thing, try to live as pure and clean as you can.
Yeah.
It's not we can't be 100%.
Yeah.
But as you are striving in that upward direction, your orientation changes.
Exactly.
So like you were here before, but now you've changed, your orientation has changed. So now when those reciprocal effects are coming, they will not find you here.
No.
Because you've already changed.
Your frequency has changed.
It has changed. So now when those reciprocal action comes now,
you're not there.
You are not there. You have moved. They might strike you, but not as intense as when you are there, because nothing is lost.
Exactly.
You know. So as you are growing, as you are climbing upward, it is nothing but joy and enchantment that you'll find within yourself.
Absolutely.
So those laws have to be. We cannot neglect those laws. We cannot. And then there are also the law of homogeneous effect. Birds of the same feather
flock together. Yeah.
So whatever comes to you, somebody will say, like I hear people say, if all those friends that are not good, you have to
or even your spouses, the people you married to and stuff like that.
But those are people that you've attracted. You've attracted them based on your nature, you know. So if we walk around with this mirror that we walk around in, the things that you actually see in life, mostly things that are wrong, are actually is life give a reflection of yourself, telling you that hey, these things that you see are in people, they're actually part of yourself.
Exactly.
And life is showing you these things through other people so that you can change. But guess what we do? We turn around and start criticizing. We start judging people.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing how we can change and help that individual also to change. Yeah. But one thing that I wanted to add that I didn't add before I jump into the law of homogeneous species, I wanted to add something about reincarnation. When our father, when we left our spiritual home to came here, we're given the free will. That free will is an intrinsic part of the spirit.
Absolutely.
And that free will was never given to us to come here and decided to pick good or evil. Remember, before evil even came into existence, there was nothing, everything was good.
Yeah, we didn't have any concept of the idea of evil at one point.
Evil. So we were given that free will to experience. I keep going back to if you have a child or a loved one and you give them, let's say, a certain amount of money out of love. You say, oh, I give you this money to take to use.
Yeah.
That love also accompanied a free will for that individual to use those funds or to use whatever you give them according to the way according to what they really like.
Exactly. You didn't give them the money so they could go, buy drugs and destroy themselves,
That's
right? You give it to them so they can be able to do something to help themselves, right?
So that's how that free will was given to us, to use it, to experience things, to use it so that you are not stuck in one thing.
Yeah, to experience the glory of God's creation.
That was why the free will was given. It was never given for you to pick sides.
Exactly.
There's no two sides.
Yeah.
There's only one side.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the side of the light.
That's the side of light.
Everything else is just self-destruction.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned that, brethren, because I've actually spoken about the free will before in some of my videos. And that's the thing. People don't understand what the free will is. And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that the free will is not, so much about choosing sides, right? Before evil came into existence, right, there was only good, right? And as brethren said, the free will is a power of the spirit, is a spiritual gift that was given to us. So before we became corrupted, this free will would have never chose to do anything evil, anything dark, or anything destructive. This free will only strives for the light. That's all it strives for, as I mentioned, to help us to experience the glory of God's creation. But since we have fallen now, this free will has become hijacked. So what we're calling free will today is not even what the free will is in its true form, because the free will only chooses the light and never the darkness, So that's another thing. People want to make all these arguments about freedom. You don't even know what freedom is. You think freedom is you being able to choose to destroy yourself, and you think, oh, I'm free because I'm free to do that. That makes me. No, that's not what freedom is.
Or to destroy other people.
Yeah, or indulging.
Yeah.
That's not what freedom is, family. That's a very opposite of freedom.
Right.
That's a very opposite of freedom. Freedom is knowing God, truly knowing and understanding God and living in accordance with the will of God. That's freedom. Yeah. That brings true freedom and liberation, But go ahead, Brethren.
So with this free will that we came here to experience, that experience also means a lot of people think, oh, I'm black, so I'm black. We're here to experience life. So we incarnate in different cultures, different civilizations, ancient time. You see me today is not the individual, thousands of years. So it's an accumulation. Every human being that you see
is an accumulation.
Accumulation of experiences.
Thousands of years.
Thousands of millennia experiences.
Yep.
So that's why it's good to bow down and respect every human being that you come across. Because even the wildest of the wildest beasts, the wildest cannot be compared to what a human being is, based on the experiences that they've had wandering through this creation. So no human being should be underestimated or taken for granted.
Yeah.
So we incarnate, sometimes we might incarnate as a China man, India man, African man,
exactly,
black, white.
Exactly.
Those things are always happening.
Yeah.
So and the race is reversed. So you might have been maybe a black person or a slave many years ago.
Yeah.
And then in this present life, you find yourself being a white person.
Exactly.
So these things happen. So that's why we have to be very careful how we wander in this creation. And we have to be very careful what we do to our fellow human being.
Absolutely.
Because that thing that you do to them, you are bound to experience that for yourself.
That's the law.
Sometimes it might be harsh, those conditions, those laws of reciprocal action. Sometimes, but that's the reality. We can't change those facts. We have to live with them.
Yeah.
But we can make good by by striving for the better.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and as it says in the Grail Message, as soon as the human spirit sets on the path for what is right and for what is good, he will receive help. The help is there, is going to come as long as you're genuine. You stay on that path, family, and it is a promise of God. Matter of fact, it is a law that you must receive the help as long as you're genuine for what is good and what is right and for God. It is a law of God that you must receive the help.
yes.
But you have to stay on that path and you have to be genuine about it. So something may come and knock you off. You have to stay on the path, right? I mean, between two of us right now, I'm pretty sure if we wanted to go deep into some things that has really happened to us personally and has knocked us off, your jaws will drop.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to stay on the path, family, because it is a promise of God that the help must come.
Yes.
Right? So I want to sort of still remaining on the same topic, brethren, but I want to take it into another connection that we talked about last week. And I was thinking about this over the past week or so. And I was like, you know what? I think that we should expand upon this because we did mention it last time. Let's expand upon this because it goes perfectly with what we're doing here right now, which is explaining these laws of creation to y'all, to pretty much, to unravel a lot of these so-called mysteries. So with the physical body of Jesus, because, a lot of Christians will say, well, when Jesus did physically resurrect from the dead, because after his resurrection, we still saw the wounds. When they crucified him, the wound of the nails in his hands, we still saw that after he rose from the dead. That's how we know that it was a physical resurrection. He was still in his physical body, and then he ascended into heaven with his physical body. So I want us to take some time and talk about it. Why were the people still able to see the wounds in Christ's body after he rose, after his physical body had been killed?
Yeah.
That
is. I mean, that's a very good. I'm glad you brought that because that has caused a lot of confusion. Like a lot of people even say that Christ's body ascended into heaven. And the confusion is there, but the coming of us as human beings on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we were spirit. So as we slowly transcend downward.
Yeah. Or descend downward.
Descend downward.
Yeah.
We have, as we entering into different planes, we need different coverings. It's like somebody going to Alaska, right?
Exactly.
You need to cover yourself with something warm. Putting some really thick jackets and leather boots to protect yourself from the cold.
Yeah.
So as the spirit descend, at first it needed what the soul.
Yeah.
It needed the soul into the ethereal world.
Yeah.
And the soul a little bit heavier.
Mm-hmm.
So as it descends further, coming down here into this part of our material world, the earth, it needs a physical body. But there's also a transition body, which is called the astral body.
The astral body, yeah.
Because the soul is so big, the soul cannot enclose into the body.
Exactly.
So it needs a transition body, which is the astral body. And that body is the connection between the body and the physical body,
the flesh, and the ethereal,
and the ethereal, which is the soul.
Yeah.
So when Christ passed on, before that, when we die, the first thing that dies is the physical body.
Is the flesh.
Is the flesh. The flesh dies, and then after a couple of days or I don't know how long that takes, but then the astral body start detaching itself from the physical body. After that, the soul, and then completely liberate the spirit upward.
Yeah.
So that's why even Christ was able to raise
Lazarus
from the dead, because when we die, the attachment is still there,
for a certain amount of time.
For a certain amount of time through our umbilical cord.
Yeah.
There is an ethereal cord that is connected from the body, the soul, the astral body, the soul, and the spirit.
Yeah.
So it takes a couple of days. As long as that attachment is still there, the body can still come back to life because there's still that connection with the spirit.
Exactly.
But when that disconnection is completely gone, then there's no return back to this physical reality. So when Christ died, the disconnection was not completely there.
Yeah.
So he
was in his astral body still.
He's still in his astral body. So that's why the astral body is also a reflection. It's just like the physical body, but lighter.
Because it's so close to the physical fleshly body. So it resembles it on many levels.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why you could still see the piercing on Christ's hand, the nails and so on his feet, because of the astral body. So you could still see that. And
the wounds of the physical body also register on the astral body because they're so close. So, for example, matter of fact, the phantom limb syndrome. I wanted to talk about that, right?
Gets their leg cut off.
Yeah. And
sometimes they still feel.
Yeah. They still feel the sensation when you lose a limb, like you lose an arm. And then years later, people still feel like that arm is still there. Well, the fact is the arm is still there. But it's not the physical arm, it's the astral arm that is still there. So that's why they can still feel that sensation sometimes as if it is still there.
Because I had a friend of mine who had his leg cut off. I remember many years ago, he has passed on. But sometimes he would forget
that the leg was gone.
That the leg was gone. And he would try to walk normal, but he would fall. Because the sensation of the astral body
is still there.
Is still there.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. And people saw that and they saw that and they thought that was Christ's physical body.
Yeah.
But no, that was not.
The wounds, it's just that the wounds of the physical body will also show up on the astral body. And that's what they were looking at, was Jesus' astral body, not his physical fleshly body. Right. So, I mean, again, family, this is why the Grail Message is so great, because you get to understand things like this. You get to understand things like this, and then you're not lost with the crowd wondering and believing falsehoods and things like that, because it's quite unfortunate that some of the people who believe in God the most are some of the people who believe the most inaccurate things about God.
Yeah.
Like their heart is, I'm not saying that the heart is not pure, that they don't believe in God in their heart, but at the same time, they believe a lot of things that's not true. And like you were saying earlier, brethren, you can pray all you want. You can go to church and donate all the money you want. But if you're in violation of a certain law in creation, as long as you're not understanding that and adjusting yourself with that law, your prayers and your donation is not going to change anything. It's not. And then you're going to become upset with God. I've been praying my whole life. I've been helping people. I've been donating. I've been doing all these things, and I'm still dealing with the same thing. That's because you're still lacking that knowledge of creation and that law that you're in violation of. And there, you have not changed anything as far as that goes. So while you're here doing all this good stuff, you still haven't changed that one little thing yet.
Right.
And you have to change that. That's how the laws work.
Yeah.
So yeah, brethren. I'm really enjoying this conversation, brethren. Do you want to say anything else about that before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, there was another law that I didn't speak of, the law of motion. Motion is a law that governs creation, and it must be strictly observed in order to make and keep everything moving, including our physical body.
Nothing happens until something moves.
Something moves. There's so much movement and activity going within us, and that has to be counterbalanced with external activity. It doesn't mean that you should go to the gym and work out and kill yourself in the gym, because most of the time those things that's vanity because
It
it's
is.
all intellectual.
It is.
You realize that some of the people that work out and do excessive, if most of the time they have a lot of health issues, health conditions, and so on, because you can't be excessive. True movement is spiritual movement. Working with nature, turning the spiritual growth activity that you are doing,
farming, gardening, things like that.
Helping, something that benefits nature, not something that you do in vanity, like people go spend hours in the gym, just sit
getting
there,
swole,
just
to post their pictures online. Look at my body.
For the physical body, because it's the spirit. The more the spirit becomes enabled. Remember, the spirit will refine the body.
Absolutely.
If you go to third world countries like where I'm from, most of the people, they don't have gyms. But the people are in shape. You don't need to do any extra ordinary. Keep it simple. The Lord didn't create us to come here on earth and knock our head against the rock or do all this what we call spiritual acrobats and stuff like that, and try to storm the heaven or try to demand from Him that he does certain things, like how people pray and ask the Lord, you have to do this. He's the creator. It's like you going to your father and telling your father, oh, daddy, you need to do this. Daddy, I want this. Daddy, give it to me. No, that's not the way it works. We just have to understand the simplicity of life, the laws that govern creation, all this. They are so simple. Just those three laws: the law of reciprocal action, the law of which is the law of cause and effect, the law of homogeneous species, birds of the same feather
flock together.
The law of motion, movement. Remember that the law of reciprocal action also work in conjunction with
all the laws work in conjunction with each other.
The law of equilibrium.
And
also we have the law of the gravitational forces.
Exactly.
Those are also laws that majority of us fail to recognize that when we passed on, this law also takes effect. The law of gravity.
Exactly.
It weighs upon us. And we were told in the 10th commandment that thou shalt have no other gods but the only one God Almighty.
Exactly.
So a lot of people have so many other gods here through either money, food, and all these things. So these things weigh us down. And when we passed on, the law of reciprocal action kind of weigh us down here. And that's what happened when majority of the people passed on. Sometimes people can even see them because they are so dense.
They're earthbound. They're still here.
They're still here. So sometimes they ghostly apparition. These are human beings that are still here.
That are stuck here.
And sometimes it can be spooky. Sometimes you see them. And you'll be wondering, like, man, what are you still doing here?
And some of them don't even know that they're dead. Because they're still chasing after things of the earth.
After things of the earth. Those propensities, addictions. Over there are no addictions. So now you come and hang around smokers. When they're smoking, you hang around smokers.
Whatever it is you want, the law will give it to you. You overindulge in it until you get sick of it and realize, you know what, this is not what I want. That's just how it is. You get what you want. It's just that human beings, we ask for all the wrong and destructive things, and then when we get it through the laws, then we complain. Why is this happening, God? I don't get it, right? And here's another point I want to make. As we're sitting down here breaking down the laws, and brethren, thank you, because I really like how you're going into these things and breaking the law down, because one thing it is allowing me to see as you're doing this is the practicality of it, and also just how it hits every aspect of our lives. But it's like sometimes we don't see it. Like, for example, these laws are so simple when he's talking about the law of reciprocal action. For example, when you touch a fire and it burns you, right? That's the law right there. So you learn very quickly, oh, okay, I shouldn't do that because of the consequences. So we can understand it in when it comes to things like that. But when it comes to other aspects of our lives, of the decisions we're making and the things we're doing, for some reason, we don't make the same connection.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is happening to me. I'm burning right now because I kept my hand on that fire.
Yeah, we forget so quickly.
Exactly. But it's the same laws, family.
And you can find out that when something happens to you, try to question yourself. What did I do?
Exactly.
You will get glimpses. It might not be 100%, but you will get the understanding, and that's how forgiveness comes in.
Ask and it shall be given to you.
Forgiveness only takes place when you understand that what you did was wrong, and you try to make good at it.
Exactly.
Then forgiveness takes place, and then there's sympathy about the whole situation.
Exactly.
And then there's also, I know you talk about it in one of your videos. You have people like Esther Hicks, and they talk about the law of attraction.
Yeah.
People fail to realize that you cannot attract everything that you want in this life. That's the biggest deception.
It'll destroy you probably.
You can only literally attract who you are.
Exactly.
You cannot be given anything that you are incapable of handling.
So it's not about what you want. I'm sorry, brethren, but I want y'all to make that point. It's very important. It's not about what you want. It's about what you are.
That's right?
Yeah, go ahead, brethren.
So people attract this thing their own kind, and all women might attract a man, and this man does not treat her right, and she be complaining. But that's who you've attracted, your kind, your nature.
Exactly.
Sometimes we might be abusive, or we might be robbers.
Yeah.
Not physically, but within ourselves. So, but remember, those things take the physical manifestation. Or you can be a slave to yourself. You can be a slave to addictions and all these things.
Exactly.
And it will take a physical form.
Exactly. So when you think about things like slavery, all these people who want to, slavery is so unjust, it's so unfair. No, y'all need to understand, before a person experiences physical slavery, they had to enslave themselves spiritually first. That's the only way it can happen. So the real question is, what have I done to enslave myself? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought this up, brethren, because it's reminding me of a conversation that I had with my brother. Growing up, we had all these complaints about my father, and I had some of these conversations with you, all the things that my father has done, the things we disagree with, and so forth. One day I was talking to my brother, and he said he asked my dad, he was like asking my dad why my dad was so angry, or no, my dad did something to him. I think my dad punished him or something like that. And my brother was asking him, why did my dad do it? Why did my dad do that to him? I'm trying to recall this. Forgive me, family. But my dad's response to my brother was, I don't know. I was just so angry. I don't know. That's what my dad said to my brother. So fast forward a few years later, my brother was at college, right? And he had an experience where he did something and he couldn't really explain it. And when I asked him about it, he was like, man, when he was telling me about it, he was like, man, I don't know. I was just so angry. That's what my brother said. I couldn't explain it. I was just so angry. And when he said that, I was like, a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, oh my gosh. It was another reminder, family, that we are so much like our Father, So it's like all these things that we complain about that our dad has done to us, it happened, family, because those things were in us. So all that anger that we experienced through our Father, this same anger was and is, was in us. And I've come to this realization myself sometimes with, the kind of anger that I had to deal with within myself, So you come to that realization and you're like, man, I'm experiencing these things because they're in me.
Yeah.
Yes, it's happening at the hands of another person, but it's only happening because it's in me.
That's right.
So I'm attracting it, right? So my Father,
freedom right there.
Yes, and that's freedom. That realization is freedom. So my Father really is just a reflection of the things that's in me.
That's it.
And family, that's.
And one of the things that It's just I know we are taking so much time in this topic.
No, it's
a
good.
Very important topic.
Yeah.
Because, things that are happening in the world today, you see another nation will go to another nation and just decide to take everything from their land and don't care about the people.
Yeah.
And you see that everywhere, not realizing that, okay, if I'm going to this country and these people have gold, let's see where is the balance, an exchange of balance. I take the gold, I give you something. Maybe I help you with construction, build your roads, or build schools.
Exactly.
But guess what? They leave these people, they plunder them in all kind of conditions. Chaos. And then later on, you start wondering, how come these people are trying to cross the ocean to come to your home, to come to your land? And people are angry. How come we have these foreigners here in America? But did you realize that these people were living peacefully over there, didn't bother with you, but you went over there and plundered them into all kind of misery and suffering.
Exactly.
And now, so these are the same violation of these laws. So these laws from nations and then whatever happens to one part of the world, we fail to realize that sooner or later it's going to affect us as human beings. So we are not in a vacuum.
We're not.
Everything that we do, no matter the situation and condition, is just a matter of time.
It is. And Brendan, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's so interesting. I remember saying this to somebody a few years ago that, for example, you look at America and they talk about, oh, these illegal Hispanic people are coming in here and, doing this, that, and the third. I laugh whenever I hear these things because when you look at it from a spiritual standpoint, it's like, well, who was here before the white people came? It was the Native Americans, right? And now today, I mean, y'all know the history. The Europeans came, whatever happened. Now the Native Americans are no longer here, and now America is dealing with immigration problem from Latin America and so forth. But when you look at Latin America, who are these Latin Americans? They are just the offsprings of the Native Americans that were once killed off or whatever, chased off the land by the white Europeans. So these Mexicans and other Hispanic people we're looking at today are the same Native American people. That's who they are. They didn't go anywhere.
Not only that, even if they don't come back as Native Americans, they might come back as white folks too. So
exactly.
So we are, my brothers and sisters, we are one race. The
human race.
The human race. And all you have to do is to love your fellow human being.
Absolutely.
That's all you have to do.
And I was just laughing earlier, Brendan, when you were saying that, because that picture you painted right there, even though you were only talking about one specific group, really, family, that's the picture of the whole entire world. That's the picture of the whole entire world. This nation, because they feel like they're strong and powerful, they go into this weaker nation. They cause all this chaos, and they change the way of life of these people. Fast forward years later, these people now start immigrating over here, right? Because they can't live where they used to live anymore. So now they got to come here for a better life and so forth, right? It's been happening like that throughout human history, So it's like, that's why I say I laugh whenever I hear these narratives about, oh, illegal immigration, this, that, and the third. Family. We need to understand what's happening spiritually.
We can look at it. It affects you, even the churches today. Is the same violation of this law. People come to congregate, and guess what? They ask them to bring money constantly to pay tithes and all these things. Sooner or later, there's going to be There's going to be a breaking point.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of time. And then you see this establishment, from overnight, they crumple and collapse. And people be wondering, what happened to that church? What happened to this building? It's the same thing. There have to be a balance. There have to be equal exchange. You can't just take and take and take and take. Yeah. You can't do that. Absolutely. The laws does not require us to do that. Yes, you might be winning, or you might be taking advantage or moving ahead. It's temporary, but
It's not lasting.
It's not lasting. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, man, absolutely. You know what, man? I think this is a perfect time to take a brief break for a word from our sponsor, and then we're going to come back and we're going to continue the conversation. Great conversation so far, family. I hope you guys are staying with us and continue to stay with us. We'll be right back.
A special book which clearly answers the unsolved problems of human existence. The vast knowledge mediated in its pages leads the earnestly seeking reader, who weighs and examines objectively out of all the chaos of present-day confusion and distortion, to clear recognitions. This book commands attention by its forceful language, by the clarity of its thoughts, and by the setting right of distorted concepts, unmistakably and sometimes severely but irrefutably explained. The laws in which the entire creation came into being and exists are plainly set forth. The world happening is interpreted in its true significance, and man's responsibility before his God and his fellow men is revealed and explained. Thus, to him who opens himself to these recognitions is restored the indestructible inner security of his personality. For the seeking human being, the lectures of this work deal with all essential questions and spheres of life: natural sciences, ethnology, social and economic questions, religion and church, psychology and cultivation of the spirit, family and state, sex and sexuality, occultism and spiritualism, justice and law, knowledge and wisdom, the world, time and eternity, and lastly, the recognition of God. Whoever bears the desire for it living within him and is willing to make the effort will be helped to fulfillment by the work in the light of truth, the Grail Message of Abu Shin. The author writes, I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he honestly seeks for the truth. With my message, I now open the book of creation for you. The message clearly shows you the language of God in creation, which you must learn to understand so that you can make it completely your own. The author recommends that the lectures of this work be read in sequence and not picked out individually, seeking to judge the work in this way. The knowledge of the Grail Message cannot be grasped by simply glancing through it. It is the sacred responsibility of the human spirit to recognize his God and his laws through which the human being and the entire creation came into existence.
All right. We are back. Welcome back, family. And thank y'all for staying with us. I'm really enjoying this conversation. We're dropping a lot of nuggets for y'all, so I hope y'all are following us. And family, these are things that you're going to have to go and watch more than once, because some of the things that Brethren is sharing, even from the first interview, watching it more than once, some of the things that he shared, I had to watch the video more than once. I was like, oh, I realized certain depth of it later on, So anyways, let's move into our next topic of discussion. And this is this one is controversial, but I think it's something that we must talk about. The various versions of the Grail Message, family. The various versions of the Grail Message. I know y'all heard me talk about it before. But before we even get into this topic, I want to say this. I encourage all you cross bearers out there, people who are familiar with the Grail Message, don't take our word for anything. Y'all have to do the work for yourselves, and you have to do your own research. At the end of the day, we're not in control of anybody. You make your own decisions and so forth. But we're here sharing with you guys certain things that we've came across concerning the various versions of the Grail message and so forth. But at the end of the day, you have to do your own research for yourself, family. All right. So, brethren, let's get into this topic. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, it's a topic to talk about because from time immemorial, these things have always happened. There has been a battle, an opposition battle. The darkness always tried to oppose the light.
Yep.
From Christ's time, when Christ was here on earth, we know what happened to him. When Christ, after his departure, we know exactly what happened to him. The people sat back, they dissected, and some even misrepresented Christ's teaching, of which today we can even see most of those teachings. It's a convoluted, it is not even close to what Christ taught back in those times. So there are so many versions of his teachings.
Yeah.
They come even in the scriptures, the Bible. If you look at the Bible today, there are so many versions of it, and there are no two Bibles that are alike and the same. So this darkness always try to oppose the light.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
It always it infiltrates where the light is and try to distort things.
Yeah.
And flip things upside down, sideways, or whatever. It's like somebody running a marathon, and then you are running a marathon, and then somebody move the
goalpost,
the direction.
The direction. Yeah.
You took a different direction. You're running and thinking that you're heading to the right goal, but the direction has been switched. Wow. And that's what has happened. It happened during the time of Christ, and it's so unfortunate and sad that even with the Grail organization, the Grail movement, it's same thing has happened with it. You know, when this message was brought to us, the darkness also did the same thing. The darkness did not leave it alone. Remember, where there is light, the darkness will attack. It's just something that when you become conscious of this spiritual journey, you will know that the darkness is always looking for ways, to do its dubious work, or to do its dirty work. So there's no exception with the Grail movement, with the Grail message itself.
Yeah.
When we all started reading the Grail, I read the Grail message. I started with the green edition. That's the only version that I knew.
Yeah.
And it's the most popular edition. When you go online, you type in Grail message in the light of truth. You will have this edition, but it has a green, a green cover.
Yeah, this is the one he's talking about. This used to have the green cover, but I used to read it so much that the cover kind of just broke off, so I just threw it away. But this is how it looks when you take off the cover. But this is the green edition with all three, of the books in one. So this is the one he's talking about right here.
So I read this this edition for many years until just about 3 years ago.
I think 3-4 years.
3-4 years ago. And I remember an old good friend of mine. I don't want to mention his name because I didn't ask that. I didn't take permission from him.
Yeah.
He encouraged me to look at the 1931 edition of the Grail Message.
Yeah.
So, but I was very reluctant to do that. I said, how can that be? Why should I read the 1931 edition? But he was relentless. He kept encouraging me, talking to me. So one day I decided to muster the strength to read it. So, but in my mind, I was thinking when I'm reading it, I'm going to compare the lectures.
Yeah.
As I will read a couple of paragraphs from the green one, and then read a couple of paragraphs from the 1931. And when I started doing that, I was astonished. I was astonished. Paragraphs were taken out, paragraphs were missing, and then the sentence structures were switched. Like it was switched, and I was like, "How can this be?"
Yeah.
And the more I've read, the more I've discovered the inconsistency.
Yeah.
And I started realizing, wow, these are two different books.
Exactly.
That we are reading. This is the 1931 edition.
Yeah.
It has resonances 1 and 2. I think.
And I always like to hold it up in comparison. Yeah. So you can see for yourself, family, right? This is the 1931 complete edition, right? Now look at that and compare it to this, right? Because this is also, this is all 3 volumes in one right here, right? So now look at the difference, family. It's easy to see that clearly there's way more here than here, right? So I always like to hold it up like that so y'all can see, for yourselves. So we're not just here making stuff up.
When I started reading it, it was so sad. It was a very painful experience because I couldn't believe that the same thing that happened with the Bible has happened with the message.
Yeah.
So the more I read, the more there were new lectures that were taken out and removed and kind of switch around. And those lectures that were removed are found in the 1931 edition. And these were some deep stuff.
Powerful lectures.
Powerful lectures.
Man.
That we need. And what I also discovered that the Grail movement, the organization, this movement has not gained its strength and intensity is because of the neglect of the 1931 edition. Because if you read the green one, if you just want to sit on your own and just say, "Oh, I got the message, so I keep it to myself."
Yeah.
But the 1931 awakening, this green one wake us up.
Yeah.
But the 1931 truly wake me up. That's where I really got my true awakening.
Yeah.
And it really put a fire under my feet.
Yeah.
And that's why we are sitting here today, come to that realization that we cannot just sit with this work. We have to let people know about it.
Yeah.
And that recognition came from reading the 1931 edition.
Mm-hmm.
So when you Google, you go on Google, you Google the Grail Message, the Light of Truth, the 1931 edition, then that's how you will get the 1931 edition. But if you just go there and type in Grail Message, the popular one comes up.
The green one.
And that's the one that the organization has been promoting from time immemorial.
Absolutely.
The fact remains is, why did they have to sit back and decide to rewrite the message? Or they say, "Oh, that's a revision."
Or to change it, yeah.
To change it. But when you ask this question, the excuses were, "Oh, the author authorized the revision."
Mm-hmm.
So, but we know perfection does not change itself. It remains yesterday, today, and forever. So you mean to tell me that what was given to us out of perfection, out of perfection was imperfect. That's why it needed to be corrected by
humans, right? Exactly.
So we humans now have to tamper with this. And that's what has happened.
Yeah.
That's what happened with this organization. The darkness infiltrated the organization and distorted and came up with this other distortion. And there's also another edition now that they call it the 1941 edition.
Yeah, there's the green edition, the 1941 edition, the 1949 edition. I heard there
are so many that have come out. And then these other 1941 edition that I found out recently, they took most of those advanced lectures and put them in the forefront.
In the front,
In the front.
Yeah.
So I realized that's also another deception, another to misplace the signpost, so that the seeker is not led upward.
It's taken out of order. Let me just give you guys an illustration, because when you have the message, this is the original body of the message, right? And then after you read this, then you move on to the Resonances, Volume 1. And then when you're done with Resonance Volume 1, you go to Resonances, Volume 2, right? All the lectures are in that order, right? That's how it's supposed to be. So this version that Brethren is talking about, what they did was they took Resonances, like the first 20 lectures from Resonances, Volume 1, and they put it before this, right? Like that. They changed the order, taking the advanced lectures and putting them in the front. And remember, what the lecture does is it builds up the human spirit slowly, right? So that it can be ready to receive higher knowledge, higher concepts, and so forth. So that order is very important. But if you take that piece from the very top and you bring it down here, then it creates a ceiling, because the spirit may not be able to penetrate that ceiling because of the lack of understanding. So that's why these things, it may seem so subtle, but it is hugely deceptive, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help people get the message at all.
In the message, we were warned. The book warns us that nothing should be changed, altered.
Exactly.
Nothing should be. The work should be left as it is. And when I came to that recognition, since I've dabbled into so many other teachings, mostly I also my little knowledge of the Bible, I came it hits me when about the feast, the wedding feast of Cana, the feast that Christ went to Cana, and they say he turned water into wine. That was my biggest taking. It's in this feast. So when people went to this wedding feast, there was still preparation. So the old wine was served first.
Yeah.
So people drank all the old wine that was given to them, and whatever the little crumbs of food that they were giving, and these people were full. They were filled up. So now, when the new wine was brought to them, Christ turned water into wine, or how you say it. And then the master ceremony, or he said they should bring the wine, let him taste it. When he tasted the wine was good. He said, I think that was in John 2, chapter 1 to 10. The wedding feast of Cana. He said, man, this is good wine. He said, how come this wine was not given to the people to drink instead of them drinking the old wine? So he's trying to tell the people that this is the real stuff. I guess they are already filled up with the old wine. So that's what happened. Even if some of our fellow brothers and sisters who are cross-bearers, you try to tell them, because they were so thirsty and hungry going to the wedding feast. So they were giving the old wine, and that's what they've been intoxicated by the old wine. So now the new wine has been brought to them. They're already filled up. So they say we don't have any need for it. Like when you turn and they look at you like, even with the organization itself. And that parable also, for me, it speaks to all religions. It speaks to all Christians. Because when they are so intoxicated and filled up with the old. So now if you give them
with their Bibles and Qurans and other books.
The Quran, the Buddhists, the Hindus, you name them. They are all filled up with the old wine. So now when you give them the new wine, they'll be looking at you like, man,
you're crazy.
You're crazy.
Get that out of here. That's not the truth. We have the truth. Right.
So that's how it plays out. And when that verse, those verses in the Bible, they are waking within my spirit. That's when I realized, I said, wow, I see.
I
see. I encourage, and the 1931 edition of the Grail Message is an easy read.
Yeah, it is.
And it speaks directly to your spirit.
Yep.
But the green one, it speaks more into your intellect.
Absolutely.
It speaks more into your intellect instead of the spirit. But the 1931 speaks to the spirit directly.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, family, we have to realize that it's a spiritual journey at the end of the day, and that we are involved in a spiritual warfare. And that's the thing about it. They say that the greatest trick that the devil has ever pulled was convincing people that he doesn't exist. So a lot of people are not aware that there is an actual enemy of God that has been working against humanity for the longest time. So this darkness is everywhere, family. It's everywhere. It's within the Grail movement. It's within all your churches and organizations and so forth. It is everywhere. And that's why, especially today, it is so important that we get this word. And that I say all the time, it's spiritual work. Because as we're sitting here, right, our journey to the Grail Message has not been some kind of a walk in the park, right? We first started with this right here, with the green one. So even the journey from coming to the green one to the 1931, there was some struggles involved there that involved some conversations, that involved letting go of the old and accepting the new, right? That involved even some disconnections.
Yep.
So it's work, family, and we cannot be lazy about it. And that's why we have to stay on that path and keep the spirit active, so that when we encounter things like this, we can be able to, to find what the truth really is.
Yeah.
Because
it's an endless seeking.
Go ahead, brother.
It's an endless seeking.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about the Grail Message is it gives you an overview of things. You can look into things and be able to decipher. You can be literally able to tell what's the truth and what is not the truth.
Exactly.
So the Grail Message gives you that broader perspective,
exactly,
that broader view. It opens your intuitive faculties, to a point that will baffle you. You're able to see truth things that the average person cannot see and understand. And so that's what the message does. It's a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of intelligence. So I really encourage people to take a look into it.
Yep. And you know what? Like I said earlier, we came to these realizations because we have gone back and compared both, the books with each other. That's a part of the work that I'm talking about, So I'm not going to be a cross bearer who says, you know what, don't ever read this edition. No, you make your own decision. What I'm going to say is this, though. If for those of y'all who stuck on this one right here, right, why don't you just read this, right? Read this one and compare it. That's all you got to do, just so you can see for yourself, Then you'll be able to make a much better decision, in my opinion, as opposed to saying, you know what, same thing that Christians do. We have our Bible, so why do we need the Grail Message? Right?
Why do I have to look at the Quran?
Exactly. That is part of the spiritual work. The devil is here to knock us off, off our feet, and we have to stay on our feet. So.
And one more thing, I also want to ask that I realized. Most cross bearers or adherents of the Grail Message, we say, the author decided to change his work based on the condition and circumstances at that time. So my question I will pose: when Christ faced death, Christ did not alter his teachings. Christ could have saved himself and say, I didn't say that. But Christ stood for what he preached, even till death. So the same thing, I believe the author of the Grail Message will not alter anything regardless of the situation, circumstances, and conditions of that time. That is a big lie.
Yes.
It's a deception.
Yes.
Straight from the pits of hell.
Yes. And he says it in the Grail Message. He says, the word stands and the word is. If you cannot, if you don't understand it, then it's not for you. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Right? But all this business of trying to change the message or make this or that adjustment, that is not our place. The word has been given to us. It has been put together perfectly. It is not our place to be, making all these decisions and doing this, that, and the third. And family, when things like that happen, all it does is it keeps the message away from people who possibly could have gotten the message. That's all it does. So there's been a lot of corruption in this family. So I don't want y'all to think that just because you have the message, you can relax now in your home. That is the complete opposite. And I think that's what Brethren was saying earlier. For a lot of us who got this green edition, this older edition or whatever other edition of the Grail Message, we feel like we're there now. Oh, I got the message. I'm done. No, that's not it. That's the very opposite. Now that you have the message, the work has just now begun, right? And the work is even hard. Well, I don't want to say, yes, harder. It is harder, but we have the one thing that'll make sure that we're successful if we remain faithful to it. So the work has just begun. We have not arrived yet, family. We're not home yet. Right. So I want y'all to, as cross bearers, we need to understand that. Right. Yeah. You got anything else you want to add, brethren, about that?
I think that was just, I think that lay clarity on that. As
yeah.
you said, this journey is an individual journey. And we are not even here to convince anyone, mostly cross bearers, to read this 1931 edition.
Yeah.
It's an individual journey. But for me, that's my decision. I realized that these two books are not the same. A lot has been taken out of this one, the green one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot has been taken out of it. And it was done deliberately. And I think it's the work of nothing but the work of the darkness.
Of course. Of course, wherever there's a light, they're going to try to interrupt and so forth, So with that being said, brethren, I want to give you an opportunity because we've pretty much went through all the stuff that I jotted down notes about that I wanted us to hit. So I want to give you an opportunity if there's anything else that you didn't get a chance to go into or whatever you want to expound upon, to take this time to do that before we bring it to a close.
I think what we are doing here is we're just ordinary human beings trying to help ourselves and also help our fellow human being in this journey. The spiritual journey is not always an easy journey. There's a lot of challenges, sometimes confusion, but we have to be steadfast.
Absolutely.
And strong in this journey. We cannot relent our effort and try to become lukewarm.
Exactly.
So we have to, it's continuous seeking and continuous striving till death, even in the beyond. It's a continuous journey.
Yeah.
There is no time that will say, oh, they stand still. There's no standstill in creation.
Exactly.
As earlier stated, that motion, movement, constant movement. The sun never stops shining.
Mm-hmm.
The sun, it keeps shining. So we have to continue in that effort. You cannot come to a point and say, and they say, rest on your laurels.
Yeah, exactly.
And say, oh, I've arrived, I've made it.
Actually, you know what? I just thought about this, and I think that's would be a good thing to include here, brethren. Um, with what has just happened recently with this, Donald Trump assassination thing that's been happening. I don't know if y'all been paying attention to the narrative, but I feel like I feel like there's a big setup going on, and people are just being set up. I feel like people are being set up for the acceptance of the Antichrist, because Donald Trump has been now being compared to Jesus. A lot of people are looking up to him to be some kind of a savior, right? They feel like he's going to save the country, he's going to save America, and so forth. There's just a lot happening with that, with Trump and Jesus and saving America and things like that. And I find it to be very deceptive, because family, we keep putting our faith in man, right? And Donald Trump is not going to save you. He's not your savior, So, brethren, I want you to kind of tie in what we were just saying right now about the Grail Message, about what it is, and the need for the message, and with all this stuff that's going on with Trump and being said about him and so forth.
Everything that we see around us is just a deception, misplaced attention, so that we see social media, from all the videos you watch, the TikTok, all this stuff that keeps you distracted.
Mm-hmm.
You spend so many hours on social media, Facebook, you name it. It does a distraction, neglecting your spiritual, your spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
It's just entertaining the intellect, which is immortal. Remember that the intellect has a lifespan.
Yeah, mortal.
The
intellect is mortal. Yeah, the spirit is immortal.
The spirit is immortal.
Yeah.
And that should be our attention and focus to enable and to constantly strengthening and uplifting that, and educating that, and gain the necessary spiritual experiences that we can.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to return home empty-handed. Like the prodigal son.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Went home with nothing. We want to return home. We want to return home fully mature, fully capable. So as human beings, we have to continue to strive. And this knowledge that we present here is something that has really helped us, me personally.
Yeah.
And I know we help a lot of individuals
exactly
to mature. So the distraction, all that is when you look at what is happening in social media, all the campaign and presidential election, that's not where the attention should be focused. That's not where the attention should be focused.
Yeah.
We are entering a period where it's no longer man is no longer the rule of man.
Yeah.
But a higher power.
Yeah.
A higher authority.
Exactly.
Is in effect. Majority of people are not conscious of that.
They're not.
But it's going to hit home hard sooner or later.
Yeah.
We are in that time. We're in that period.
And I think it is so sad to be in such a dire time. And the thing that people need the most is the thing that they're furthest away from. And right now is a time where people should be given the word of God. It's a time where people should be discovering the Grail Message. But instead, it's a time of idol worship. It's a time of distractions. It's a time of conflict and confusion and things like that. So, and that's why we said earlier, family, if you're not worshiping God, if you're not following God, you're going to follow something. You're going to, because that innate worship is innate to the human spirit.
Yeah.
Worship is worship is our longing for God. It's our longing to connect with God. So if you're not doing that with the Creator, you're gonna be doing that with something else or somebody else. You know.
Yeah.
So I just think it's very disappointing to have people being idolized, and it's not just Trump. It's a lot of people being idolized at a time where the word of God is available to people even more. Is because of technology. It's easy for people to find the Grail Message these days.
That's right.
You know, it's
Right.
it's real easy, but instead,
Right
look
in
at
the
what's
palms
happening.
of your hand.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right
In
there.
the palms of your hand.
You know?
You rather watch videos that does not bring any benefit to you, but take away your time.
Exactly.
Remember, every minute, every second, every minute, hour here on earth is precious.
It's a gift.
It's a gift and a grace
Mhm.
that must be used wisely, not to be squandered away. Not to be squandered away. So put
Absolutely.
your time in spiritual activity,
Exactly.
upward mobility.
The law of spiritual movement. And don't think because, and a lot of us people who you have all your physical needs met, so you think you're okay. There still has to be spiritual movement within you, you know, just because you're not starving and wanting for stuff. And that's what usually happens to human beings. You know, when we have all our needs met, we tend to forget about God and things like that. For example, the message talks about this. People who retire, right? What do? They want to just relax and enjoy their money, you know, so they do things like working out and stuff like that. But what ends up happening to these people after retirement is that they end up dying a few years after retirement because that spiritual motion is no longer there. That spiritual striving is no longer there. So they die. And you can be the healthiest person. You can work out every day. You can eat healthy, but the spiritual motion is gone. They end up dying.
Yeah.
You know? So, man, there's so much we can say about the Grail Message, a family. And there is so much we're gonna continue to say about the Grail Message. And I just want to let y'all know that we're kind of starting life, family. We're gonna go a lot deeper into these things that we're talking about, but we're starting light right now. So again, I hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation. I hope you guys have learned from it. And be sure to share this video with people who you think is going to help them. Help us do the work. Help us do the work of getting this Grail Message out into the world, into the hands of people who need it, into people who is going to help, family. Because we have to fight against the YouTube algorithm. You already know how all those things go. So like the video, comment on the video, share the video, and so forth. Help us so that we can continue this work in helping people find the Word of God. Because it is the time, family. It is the time, right? We cannot continue to wait and depend on people. We are the ones. If not you, then who?
That's right.
That's the way I look at it. If not you, then who? We are the ones. So we got to take this, even if it's just us two, taking this message out into the world. We're going to do what we can to get this message out into the world, family. But join us.
That's right.
Join us, brethren. Anyway, any last words, bro? I'm going to let you have the last word before we go ahead and close.
Yeah, just if there's any questions, I know sometimes people be dropping some questions.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's anything that we can always try to answer a couple of, if you have anything that need to be. But the Grail Message has all the answers.
All the answers.
To be honest.
Yeah.
At first, I used to have some questions, but later on I realized right now I don't have no more questions to ask. I found out all my
Yeah, same here.
all my answers have been answered by the Grail Message.
Yep.
So I don't even go about asking questions.
No.
But there's nothing wrong with asking.
Mm-mm.
You know, asking also shows interest.
Exactly.
Also shows growth.
Exactly.
You know, you can't just be reading and just sit quiet. So it's good to question, to ask things.
Exactly.
That it shows your interest.
Yeah.
And that shows what friction. They say friction.
Yeah, exactly.
Increase movement.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they say iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
So sometimes as you are walking in this journey, you need somebody who can also encourage you, because it's not an easy journey.
It's not.
It's like you're a little flame, you know, and that flame, it needs to be rekindled.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if a wind comes, and what happened, it blows up the flame.
Yeah.
That's what happens to a lot of people
Yeah.
when they start this spiritual journey. But after you've become a blaze,
Yeah.
any wind that comes and blow that blaze, just ignite that blaze even
Exactly.
more.
Makes you stronger.
Make you stronger. So that's
Yes.
that's how it is.
Yes.
So I mean, you find somebody in that spiritual walk who can also encourage and work with that individual to grow spiritually.
Absolutely.
Because we need each other in this journey.
Oh man.
Because the darkness is always ready to knock you off. You know, when you start this walk, you are not steadfast. You don't have the necessary conviction within yourself. Trust me,
it's gonna knock you. The darkness gonna knock you down.
It's gonna knock you down, and it's very easy to give up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So you have to be steadfast with it.
Yeah, and I want to say this. You just reminded me of something when you were talking, brethren. And this is something we were supposed to address this earlier, but we're gonna address it now. It's not gonna take a long time. We had some questions posed to us on the last video we did, and guys, I encourage the questions. I'm not going to ever say don't ask me a question, but just remember, just because you ask a question, it doesn't mean that we're going to give you an answer, because a lot of the times you have to go to read the Grail Message. So there was an individual, I forgot the name, who asked certain questions. The first question he asked was, who are the original writers of the Grail Message? And this person said writers with an S. So that right there lets me know that this person has not spent enough time in the Grail Message. So all those questions that were posed to us, we're not going to discuss the question, because the answers is found in the Grail Message. Now, if it's a situation of where you've read something in the Grail Message and you don't understand, you want clarity, we'll be more than happy to provide that clarity. But if you're asking questions where the answers can be found in the message, we're just going to direct you straight to the message. All right. So don't get spiritually lazy, family. We're not here to read the message for you. We're here to help you understand the message. That's what we're here for. All right. So, Brendan, you want to say anything to that?
Yeah, that's all. And our next, I would like us to talk about our next conversation, because we are going to continue this. And I want us to discuss a little bit about, we talked about the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
The Trinity.
Yeah.
That's something that is not well understood by many.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think we will be able to shed a little bit of light and put a little bit of clarity on that.
Yeah.
Also. So that's a good conversation to have.
Yeah. Because
that's something that have baffled many and many people, even from Islam. Yeah. When I was with them, I realized their view into that is they also need to have some kind of understanding in that.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely.
Christians also.
Yeah.
And, so I think that's a topic that's good for discussion.
Yeah. So our next conversation is going to be around the Holy Trinity, in the Holy Spirit. And family, that's something that's not going to be done in one video, because it's such a deep topic, but that's the next conversation that we're going to start. And before I close, I want to say this. If there are any cross bearers out there listening and you want to share your story of, your experience with the Grail Message, and you want to come on this platform and do so, by all means, hit me up and we can go ahead and set it up, because I want to talk to more cross bearers, because I think the more cross bearers we talk to, the more we can help people who are out there seeking and striving and so forth. All right. So thank you, family. Thank y'all very much for being here with us. And thank you, brethren, for once again coming here. And I look forward to many more conversations that we're going to have. So with that being said, family, peace and power to the true and living. This has been Seaborn Nacirfa-Sun with my brother Ike. We'll see y'all next time, family. Peace and power.
A special book which clearly answers the unsolved problems of human existence. The vast knowledge mediated in its pages leads the earnestly seeking reader, who weighs and examines objectively out of all the chaos of present-day confusion and distortion to clear recognitions. This book commands attention by its forceful language, by the clarity of its thoughts, and by the setting right of distorted concepts, unmistakably and sometimes severely but irrefutably explained. The laws in which the entire creation came into being and exists are plainly set forth. The world happening is interpreted in its true significance, and man's responsibility before his God and his fellow men is revealed and explained. Thus, to him who opens himself to these recognitions is restored the indestructible inner security of his personality. For the seeking human being, the lectures of this work deal with all essential questions and spheres of life: natural sciences, ethnology, social and economic questions, religion and church, psychology and cultivation of the spirit, family and state, sex and sexuality, occultism and spiritualism, justice and law, knowledge and wisdom, the world, time and eternity, and lastly, the recognition of God. Whoever bears the desire for it living within him and is willing to make the effort will be helped to fulfillment by the work in the light of truth, the Grail Message of Abu Shin. The author writes, I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he honestly seeks for the truth. With my message, I now open the book of creation for you. The message clearly shows you the language of God in creation, which you must learn to understand so that you can make it completely your own. The author recommends that the lectures of this work be read in sequence and not picked out individually, seeking to judge the work in this way. The knowledge of the Grail Message cannot be grasped by simply glancing through it. It is the sacred responsibility of the human spirit to recognize his God and his laws through which the human being and the entire creation came into existence.